What's up guys, it's Avery here. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about understanding the rents for that investment property that you're trying to buy. When I first started looking at investment properties, I did not have a good understanding of what the rents would be for the towns that I was pre-approved for. So if you're going to go into deals thinking that the rents are a lot higher than they are, then every single deal is going to look like a total slam dunk and you're going to end up buying the wrong property. So here are a few ways that you can figure out what the rent should be for the towns that you're looking in. Before we get into it, if this is your first time to the channel, or if you're returning and you haven't subscribed yet and you're interested in hearing more about real estate investing, personal finance, and things you can do with your money to build wealth, please go ahead and do that. Subscribing makes the world of difference in my day, so I'd really appreciate it. Also, smash that like button, comment, share with your friends. Help me make this channel grow so I can stay motivated and keep making awesome videos for you guys. I got into the topic of how to understand rents on my video of how to analyze a rental property, and you can check that out up here or in the description below. But I get a lot of requests to go a little bit deeper into how to understand what the rent should be for a specific building. Before I get into the ways that I figure out what the rent should be for a building, let me talk a little bit about Rentometer. Rentometer is something that I get a question about very often. Should I pay for it? Should I use it? Is it useful? So let's do a live example of the Boston area where I own rental properties and see how good of a source it really is. All right, we're gonna go ahead and hop into Rentometer and look at the Everett area where I own a few multifamily properties. And I'm not gonna give you the actual address for a couple of the properties that I own because although I do just about anything to get you guys to subscribe, that's not gonna be one of them. When you're using Rentometer, all you gotta do is type in the address. And like I said, I'm gonna do a multifamily property that's not my own, that's pretty close to the one that I own so I can get a good understanding, because I know this area really well, so I feel comfortable about it. You put in the bedroom, you put in the bathroom amount, and you just hit analyze address. And a lot of people really like this service because it is super easy to use. All you have to do is type in that small amount of information and you get answers right away that you should be able to use. So I'm gonna focus in right here on this map, and looking at this map, this is the town Everett right here. As soon as you cross this river, you get into Medford. And these apartments that they're showing over here in S, N, J, M, whatever, and then also down here in this Assembly Square, which is an even totally different market than on this side of this bridge. There's just a lot of things going on. I don't think I would use any of those apartments for comparable rentals. So already we're off to a bad start because it isn't just looking at buildings within a town. The other thing that I noticed, and one thing that Rentometer doesn't do very well, is it's taking into account these luxury apartment complexes. So this letter B right here is a luxury apartment complex. And so when you're typing in your address to Rentometer, it's not differentiating between a single family building, a multifamily building, like a 2 to 4 unit small multifamily, and a large apartment complex. And it's not going to differentiate between an apartment complex that was built in the 70s and a new luxury apartment complex that has pet washing stations. So a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bath in that luxury apartment complex will obviously have a very different rent than a 2-bedroom in a small multifamily that is outdated. And it's going to take the average between the two of those and pop it out into some number to help you figure it out. And that's really not what you want to do when you're trying to figure out the rent for your building. When you're trying to figure out the rent for your building, you only want to look at comparable rental units. If you build a luxury apartment complex, sure, you can look at the luxury apartment complex and figure out what the rent should be. But you're not going to be comparing a small multifamily 2-bedroom to the luxury apartment complex 2-bedroom. You have to look at like buildings so you know what the rent should be. So the question about should I use Rentometer is a question I get a lot, and the answer after looking through this for me would be no. Unless you just hopped out of your spaceship and you're from Mars and you don't know anything about the area, or if you came out of your town car from your penthouse apartment that you've been living in under a rock for the last 30 years in downtown Manhattan and you don't know anything about money or about what actual rents are, I'm not going to think that it's going to be a very good recommendation for what the rent should be. If you want to get a really large price range and kind of get an understanding of what an area could be, yeah, sure, it could be okay. But if you actually want to know what to price your rental for, I wouldn't use it as a service. I will say, I think the one area where Rentometer could work well could be in a small town with a very small variety in the rents that all of the buildings are similar. So if you have a town that is just single family homes, they are all 3-bed, 2-bath or 2-bed, 1-bath, very similar looking buildings, they all have yards, they're all on a similar street, it's not a large building, and the difference between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom is maybe only a couple $100, then there's not going to be a huge range. If you're off by 50 or $100 in what you're renting out your building for, it's not going to hurt you that much. But in a place like Boston, where if you have a 2-bedroom that could be $3,000 in a luxury apartment complex, but the same 2-bedroom, square footage, look, everything, would probably only go for $2,100 or $2,200 in that small multifamily building, but Rentometer doesn't take into account that stuff. So in conclusion, why would you pay for Rentometer when all you can do is smash the like button for free and listen to all this great advice that I'm giving you on how to figure out the rent in your area? So the first way you can understand rent is working with a real estate agent. Real estate agents are great because they have access to the MLS and can look at comparable rental units, what they rented for, pictures of those units so you know the difference between how much an outdated unit versus a done-up unit is going to get, or if you're looking to buy an outdated unit, how much renovations you should do to get it to the top tier. So because you're already going to be looking at investment properties to go purchase with that real estate agent, when they're pulling comps for the building to determine what the price is for purchase, they can also pull comps for what the rent should be for those specific buildings. So they can get studios, 1-bed, 2-bed, 3-bed, 4-bed, all the way up until whatever amount of bedrooms that you have, a variety of bathrooms, and they should be able to give you a good understanding of what the rent should be in an area. And they should be able to give you a good spread on how much it should be for what amenities and what amenities that you should or should not add to get to that top tier of rent. In this scenario, it's really good to be working with a real estate investing focused agent because they're going to understand that you're not just going to buy your dream property, you're going to buy a property that cash flows for you. So they'll know that you're not just in it to get the nicest looking place, you're in it to get the place that you can add the most value to and where the numbers make sense. The other thing that you can do if you want to figure out the rent is talk to other investors. If someone new was coming to me and trying to figure out what the rent would be in my town, I could tell them just like that. It doesn't take too much for me to think about what the rent should be for a 1, 2, 3-bedroom in the area because I've studied it so much and now I have a good understanding and because I've been around a lot of the units in the area, so I know exactly what those things are going to rent for. If you can reach out to an investor in the area who can tell you what the rent is for various bedrooms, that's going to be a huge bonus for you. This is going to be pretty similar to asking your real estate investing focused agent for those comparable rentals and their understanding of what rent should be in the area. The only difference is this investor may not actually be a real estate agent so that they don't have access to up-to-date rental property numbers through the MLS, but because they have all the experience and all the knowledge, they're gonna know what things are gonna rent for. Another great way to figure out what the rents are gonna be in an area is looking at the local housing authority's website. So for example, in the Boston area, if you type in Boston Housing Authority, they have what the rent should be for a studio, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, whatever bedroom count that you're looking for, and it delineates which town in the Boston area that you're looking for. So if we pull up Everett on that specific site, it'll have a price for a studio, 1-bed, 2-bed, 3-bed, and it'll even take into account if the tenant is or is not paying utilities, and it'll split up if it's an electric utility, if it's a gas utility, all of those numbers, and that can give you a good idea of what the market rent should be, or potentially if the Section 8 rent might be more than the market rent in that area. If you don't want to go talk to a real estate agent or you don't know any investors yet, another thing that you can do is go look at various apartment listing platforms. So if you were just similarly going to find an apartment to live in, this is what you would do to figure out what the rent is. So for example, you go on apartments.com and you're looking for 2-bedroom, 1-baths in the area. You would just do a simple search for that and see what the apartments are listed at. So when you go do this, it's important to not just look at all of the 2-bedrooms that are for rent at the moment. Just like in the Rentometer example, you're not going to do what they do. You want to go and make sure that you're only looking at the type of buildings that you're planning on buying. If you're planning on buying a condo, only look at 2-bed, 1-bath condos and how much they rent for. Don't look at the luxury apartment complex, don't look at the single family home with a yard, and don't look at the multifamily building. Now that you've weeded out which type of building you're looking at and narrowed it down to those specific ones, make sure that you check the websites frequently and daily so that you know which ones are priced right. If you're looking for 2-bed, 1-bath, we'll just keep with that example because it's easy, and you see that there's some for $2,600 and some for $1,700 and $1,800, And that $2,600 condo that is staying on there, that 2-bed, 1-bath, has been on there for 3 or 4 weeks, while the 1,800 ones have been flying off and you don't see them on the sites anymore, you'll know that it is more likely that the 2-bed, 1-bath price in that area for a condo should be $1,800 and not $2,600. So that's how you're gonna make your decision on what it should actually rent for. You're also gonna need to make sure that when you're looking on these sites that you're looking at the various amenities that are offered within the buildings. Does your building offer stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, in-unit laundry? Does your building have the ability to get that stuff value added to it? How much would it cost to do that stuff, and how much is it going to increase your rent? So these are all good things that you could figure out just by looking at these apartment listing sites. Now, personally, I think using a real estate agent who's investor focused or talking to other investors will get you the best information. But if you're not at that point yet and you're not looking at buildings and you're just trying to get an idea of if that area would be a good place to invest in, this is a good start. So those are all the ways that I figure out what the rent should be in a specific area, especially when I'm new to that area. But it's awesome, once you've gotten to a point of understanding what the rents are, you can really get a good idea of just looking at the purchase price, looking at the bedrooms and the type of building, and know whether or not it's a good deal to pursue. So it's awesome when you really get to know those rents, how easy it is to actually analyze and figure out whether or not the deal is actually good and it will make sense. I hope this video helped you guys figure out what the rent should be, especially if you're new to an area. And if you plan on using Rentometer, or if you find rents a different way, please let me know in the comments. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Help me out for that YouTube algorithm. Help me make this channel grow. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.